This morning's seminar that we're having here is perhaps one of the most important things that we will be having during the course of the year. And, people may think that we're having this conversation because persons are now 40 to 59 years old, but I really think we need to have these conversations just because people are born and because we're here. And that the reality of planning for getting older should begin from the day you were born. And the reason that most of us find ourselves in a spot of bother is because we don't start to plan from the day we were born. When I was 20, 21 years old, an insurance lady came to sell me a policy and told me it would work because at 50, she said, when you're 50, you will no longer have to pay in toward it and you're going to, and I was like, 50? Well, I'm only 21. But lo and behold, I am 50. And I'm very happy that I no longer have to pay in. But the point is that we will all continue to age. The latest census told us that 1 in every 5 Barbadians is now over 60, and 1 in every 4 over 65. And that should cause us a bit of concern. It means that Barbados is actually getting older at a rate that even though we anticipated aging, it's at a rate that we did not anticipate, and that we must continue to plan for it. I once heard a comment that the future is no longer what it used to be. And for us, the future is not what it used to be. We had anticipated as children that when you get older, that as an older person, your children or your grandchildren would have taken care of you. We now know that that is not happening. Those systems have all but dissipated, and surely they have broken down. We anticipated that with a certain amount of older persons, that the state would be in a position to do that. But at the rate at which we are aging, the state will not be able to do it on its own. We expected that in our constituencies and in our communities, people would step up and take care of those who needed help the most. And we've also seen that that is not happening. And therefore, the future that we had envisioned is not the future that we're going to live. It requires that we start making substantial changes now. A couple of weeks ago, Marlon and I, we would have launched, I think about 2 weeks ago, we had the press conference. And the newspaper carried both Marlon and myself saying that people need to plan for their future. And I did the thing that I don't normally do, which is to read the comments. And these comments were so scathing. Why would people have to plan? The government got to look after people. People don't have anything, how they're supposed to plan. Trust me, people really need to start planning for their retirement and planning for older age. Which is not to say that I expect people to have a barrel full of money. But we do anticipate that people will have to be able to at least identify a family member or two who they hope could help them as they get older. Or if you get your gratuity payout, do not go and splurge. There was an old lady in my community who told me that when she got her payout, as she called it, at the end of her time, she gave it all to her grandchildren. But none of the grandchildren were there to help her. And so this idea of planning is going to be very, very important as we go forward. I mean, I was having a conversation with Professor Udine Bartow, and the most honorable Professor Udine Bartow, and she told me that while we consider a lot of this to be abuse, in the minds of older women who traditionally have felt it as their role to take care of the younger generation, well, to them it is them showing love in their own way. To the children, it is just, or the grandchildren, just an opportunity to take. And that the state now has to find a new way to be able to protect people, even in circumstances where they don't recognize themselves that they are being taken advantage of. And that is going to require a conversation with the public because it's going to require that we enter a relationship of trust. And I've said several times that I think the relationship between BARP and the government, between Seroptimus, between Red Cross, between any of the agencies that offer services to the public for older persons, for seniors, must be built on trust. And the government would then continue to empower these organizations, but I feel that we now have to have a deeper trust relationship with the general public so that we can encourage people and to plan for their own retirement, to plan their future, and so on and so forth. The government, as you also know, we would have brought on 420 elder care workers to join the existing 200 home care workers that were at the National Assistance Board. We haven't sent home anybody, and they have been doing a very good job in terms of taking care of some of the older persons. But that is not to say that families no longer have a responsibility to help. And some of the things that we've seen emerge in the recent past is that as a person gets an elder care worker, the family member who used to visit may not visit anymore. And then some of the responsibilities that should also be shared with the families are no longer taking responsibility for. For this to work, we need everybody to be on the same page. And people have to take up their own responsibilities while the government continues to be able to support it. And that's why we've kept on the 420 workers. That is why I believe eventually, truthfully, that we're going to have to be able to take on more. And that's why the government offered concessions to the private sector to be able to build out and bring on other agencies to be able to do that work. Because the truth is, the rate at which we are aging is going to require that all of us do something to be able to look out for one another. I should also issue the caution, though, however, that for those agencies, as we've seen online, that have responsibility for caring for older people, or even the government, for the workers within the government who have responsibility for caring for older people, but who might think that this is an opportunity to take advantage, let it be known that we have a zero tolerance approach when it comes to anybody taking advantage of older persons, of our seniors, who would have done so much for us and now in their golden years do not deserve a lot of the treatment that they are now getting. The drafting instructions are now complete. We would have the draft before cabinet very soon, which would put in place the legislative framework and architecture that would continue to protect older people in Barbados. It is something that we have to do. It is something we have to do. I also feel very strongly as we build out, I've told the permanent secretary, there are days when we're not going to be the most popular people. I think there are times when you really have to say enough is enough. And if people are doing things, if for example, as we've seen, not only in the private sector, but also in government too, for being honest, if a person has responsibility for taking care of a senior, but then they're borrowing money from that senior, that's unacceptable. If you have responsibility for a senior and then you are taking the person's pension check and cashing it, many times without the consent of the family, that is unacceptable. If you go to the supermarket to shop for them and you also shop for yourself with their money without letting them know, it is unacceptable. And that in this regard, we must have a zero tolerance approach when it comes to taking care of our older persons. And likewise, I feel as we build out, and I'll close now, but the policy is very comprehensive and looks at all the areas under which we would want to work together. But lastly, I would say self-care is important. And that we need to start planning, as Marlene was saying, not when you're 40 or 50, we need to start planning very early. And I do not only mean financial planning, I mean being able to get up and go to a gym. If you can't go to a gym, you could walk around the pasture. If you can't walk on the pasture, find a safe road or something on which you can walk. But just exercise, eat healthy. And by eating healthy, I don't mean, because people are going to say eat healthy food in Barbados is so expensive. It means eating less. A Sunday food, that Barbadians got this idea, I got to get Sunday food, which is macaroni pie, sweet potato pie, potatoes, regular English potatoes, a lot of gravy, cassava, coleslaw, and then a big fruity, and in my father's case, fruity and milk. And then we determine that that is what we need to be a Sunday meal. I mean, the truth is we got to wash our portions too. And the amount of diabetes that we're dealing with is a direct consequence of our legacy, because all of us growing up on the plantation, we were eating a lot of these carbohydrates and thinking that this is good eating, but we need to check the way we eat. And when we talk about legacy, Marlon, as part of our legacy, these are some of the things that we have to be able to unlearn. And I want to close by inviting all of you who are here to the Senior Games, not as spectators, because the Senior Games, Cynthia told me, Miss Ford, sorry, told me that she's going to be running in the race. So as Cynthia is running, she said she is now in her senior years, and I know she's older than some of y'all here, and she's running. But I'm just saying we're inviting all of y'all to the Senior Games from May 5th to 20th. The finals are on the 18th, 19th, and 20th. I want to invite you all to come to participate in the games. There's a fun element to the games this year, to come out, to participate, and to just maintain a healthy lifestyle as much as you can. It does not mean it's going to cost you any more money than it costs you now. It just means to put in a little bit more effort to live longer. And as Marlene said, though we're living longer, we're not living healthy. Most of us, as soon as we hit 60, dealing with a lot of health issues that we could avoid. So I wish you all the best and continue to look out for one another. And please let us continue to look out for our seniors. Thank you very much.